Twitter is running. I'm live. I mean, not Twitter. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. It's all the same, right? The internet. Actually, let's start with that topic today. It is sort of all in the news because Data from Star Trek was testifying in front of... Wait, not Data. Zuckerberg from Facebook was testifying about Data, not the character, but your data, to Congress and the Senate and a bunch of showboaters. First day that Zuckerberg was in there is better than the second day. But, you know, whatever. You know, it just sort of revealed how stupid our elected Republican Democrat regime officials are. And the broader point that I'm wanting to make, though, is let's talk about this. And what I'm thinking about here is, you know, I've talked before about how Facebook and Google have quite literally built their entire business models around things that are annoying to you. Serving up ads. You don't want ads in your life, but their entire business is built around that. And they've taken that concept to a terrifying, somewhat terrifying level where it's not just about serving you ads, it's about monitoring everything about you. Your interests, your locations, your search, what sites you visit, and gathering all that information to sell you, just leave it, it's fine, to sell you even better ads that you're even more likely to engage with, I guess. And from an existential perspective, are these companies and their models threatened? Yes, they are. Because I guess it's possible that we are already too entrenched on Facebook, and we've all got what's called lock-in and sunk costs into our Facebook lives. We're locked in because we've sunk so much information, pictures, relationships, communications onto that platform. And the same thing with Google. The amount of data that Google has on you because of Gmail, browsers, the Chrome browser, cookies, the ads that are being served up on sites that you visit even if you're not using a Chrome built by Google browser or Gmail, and you don't go to google.com, if Google is serving ads on that site, they're still tracking you. There's an opportunity. There is a $1 trillion opportunity to follow through on an idea that I actually built a company to 15 years ago with this concept and never developed it because I ended up doing TV and running a hedge fund and things. But it's truly a secure, private network, internet, riding on top of the internet. And you don't want your ISP knowing what you're doing. You don't want Google knowing what you're doing. You don't want Facebook knowing what you're doing unless you're choosing to post that picture. And that's a thing, that is the one thing I think, if I could just go back to that for a moment, that Zuckerberg's commentary in front of the Republican Democrat regime elected officials,
Star Trek.
He was up there. Don't distract me, Piper. I'm making a point here. That he was saying, it's almost like, I agree that there's not, when you're posting something on Facebook, you're not, hold on. I turn this thing on Do Not Disturb. There isn't an assumption of privacy when you're posting something on Facebook. But there is an assumption that everything you're liking and everything you're looking at and everything you're clicking on, sometimes even not on Facebook, shouldn't be tracked. shouldn't be used against you. It shouldn't be sold to third parties who can do whatever they want to it and resell it. And the whole thing, that the whole concept that is blowing up in Facebook's and Zuckerberg's face, and to a lesser extent, for some reason, Google has not, Google's not being bashed like this. They're much worse. If you think Facebook data gathering and privacy invasion is bad, what Google's doing to you is worse. And there is a potential for serious backlash here. And I've owned these stocks and made hundreds of percent, lots of gains over the years. I've owned Google since the day it came public. I've owned Facebook since it was at $20. So it's not like I'm, some Luddite who's long bashed these companies and missed the revolution that we actually ended up profiting on. We nailed this. But looking at where we've ended up, it's not a good thing. Google and Facebook don't have a good business model. And we will need to somehow just, I don't know, we need to be aware. We need to be aware that Google and Facebook, I've been saying this for a year or two now, that existentially their business models are at threat. It's probably not today's business, but it seems to be getting closer, doesn't it? Let's take some questions. I've gotten a note that our app is not working perfectly, Piper, but if we've got people on there, see if they can chime in and ask. I've had a few people who have said their log, it's breaking down for them. Not a surprise. Here's a couple of questions I've already got, unless someone's on there. Anybody responded?
Nobody responded.
All right. Okay. Cody, first question. Speaking of all this stuff that I was just talking about, privacy. Are these, and not just privacy, here's a different flavor of a problem for these social networks. Are these bots, are those bots, B-O-T-S, are those bots accounts with Twitter a real problem we should worry about? Now, we've owned Twitter since about 12 or $14, and we've got some nice gains. We sold some recently, even I think when it was near 34, $35. But we still own some. And the bots are these things that, I mean, at least in the last election, were the same, the Russian government, whoever the Russian people were doing the stuff. They were out there trying to inflame tensions and racial tensions and conservative versus liberal and Republican Democrat and all that stuff that you've read about a million times. And those bots were retweeting the retweets and trying to make the stuff look and get in front of people's eyes. And I don't think it's really a problem long-term for Twitter. I think those bots and the concept of bots are playing themselves out. I don't see the bots on Twitter. And I don't know if it's the same thing. It's not really a bot, but I do see at least once, maybe not once a day, but at least 3 or 4 times a week, I'm invited to friend someone on Facebook that's clearly a fake account, because they're none of my friends. I've never heard of the girl's name, and it's some girl in a bikini and wanting me to friend her and go look at her page. And then I don't know what the scam is those people are wanting to do, whether at some point then they send me a messenger note that says, hey, actually, yeah, it probably is. I was told recently of a story here on Facebook where a preacher's wife that I was visiting with, old, probably 60-something years old, asked me if I had heard of this program that a friend of her had just let her know about, that the government would give her a grant. It was giving out grants for $200,000 that would never need to be paid back. And her friend had sent her a Facebook note that said he was spending all his time on the internet trying to figure out how to invest this $200,000 the government had given him. And she should click on this link. So maybe that's what that bikini girl fake account that I get invited to friend 3 or 4 times a week is all about. I don't know. But that's fake. I don't know about Twitter. I mean, I don't follow any fake Twitter accounts, and so I don't see any fake Twitter stuff. Next question. Go ahead and invite. See if we can get the app to work. Another question here. Cody, in our 401k accounts where we are limited with investment options, how do we get defensive? Should we move money to the money market accounts or the bond funds that are available in our 401k accounts? I believe that I do not have an option to move into cash inside of my 401k account. Thank you, Cody. All right. The answer to that question is, yeah, in your 401k and some of those IRAs and stuff, you don't have the option to just truly go to cash. So money markets are the next best thing. As you saw in 2008, at the height of the crisis, or really at the beginning of the crisis, money markets broke also. And so money markets are not truly as good as cash. That's why they are paying you a slight interest, because there's a risk you're taking with that. But it's as close as you can get to cash. And if you are trying to get more defensive, as I've done over the last, well, before these recent crashes, since then I've sold some of those puts. But if you're trying to be defensive, and just in the grand scheme of things, I think it's probably wise. We have had so many gains and such a run from the bottoms that a lot of my Trading with Cody subscribers and I have been getting more defensive, raising more cash. And in your case, that would just mean basically moving it to a money market account. A bond fund, no, that's not the same thing. Being defensive doesn't equate entirely to, say, buying bonds. But again, if someone is giving you interest, it's because you're taking a risk with your money. And so whether you're lending the U.S. government interest, which is a very low risk because they can print more dollars and make sure they can pay their interest rates. There's obviously economic repercussions to just printing dollars to pay interest rates. But if someone's paying you interest, even the government, you're taking a risk with your money. So buying bonds is not the same as going into cash. Bonds can sell off. Interest rates can go higher. So you would lose capital in that case. So be careful with bonds. Cody, what is the Trading with Cody stock for the rest of 2018 that you say to yourself, that you will say to yourself, dang it, I wish I would have bought more when I had the chance? I think Verizon. I've been talking Verizon a lot for the last month or so, and I think it is just, maybe Intel too. Well, those are two of my favorite stocks right now. I've been buying some of those. Those were two recent buys. Well, Intel 6 months ago maybe, but I like them both here. Good dividend. I think there's good potential upside to the stocks themselves, and I am kicking myself for not having bought Verizon the last 2 or 3 times that it dipped down to like $45 or $46 per share. I think I paid $49. I'd like the opportunity to buy it a little bit cheaper, and I'm kicking myself for not having bought it a little bit lower. And because Verizon, if you look at the beta on Verizon, beta meaning relative to the market, how much does it move? Verizon doesn't move a lot compared to the markets. It's actually probably, I would guess, less than 1 beta. We can check that real quick. VZ. Oh, I hit the wrong button. I always do that when I'm on the phone with you guys. Is that beta on there? I don't see it on here. They've changed their layout. There it is. Yeah, NA. Thanks. I got a feeling Verizon is a low beta stock. Well, I know it's a low beta stock. I bet it's even below 1. Anyway, 1-to-1 means it moves simultaneously with the markets. All right, guys. Next question, Piper. See if anyone can chime in.
No takers so far.
All right. Or no one has figured out how to take it. Cody, what sectors might you be considering as possible shorting opportunities in 2018? I mentioned yesterday to Trading with Cody subscribers that I am doing homework actively on trying to find a few new names to short. bet against that I think might be headed lower. And, a good example was when I wrote a book several years ago and talked about shorting fossil because smartwatches were going to displace demand. One that I talked about and didn't do, well, I didn't do the fossil one either for that matter, but I kicked myself for this one. When Uber and Lyft took over the world 5 years ago, started taking over the world 5 years ago, we should have shorted the rental car companies. They all got crushed, and they've come back a little bit since then, but they were down like 80-90% over a 3 or 4 or 5 year span. Those are the kind of opportunities that we're trying to look for here. I don't know yet. Driverless cars are clearly going to displace drivable cars in the next 5 years. Suppliers to drivable cars. And one of the things I've talked about and really should probably go ahead and start shorting, betting against some of the companies, the worst ones in the sector at least. It's not just good enough to bet against the sector that's in declining. You want to find the worst companies, the worst positioned, the most hypeful management in those sectors. And so, car insurance. Yes, the driverless cars will require insurance, but the number of customers, because millions of people won't be buying their own cars anymore. It will be a fleet of driverless cars that take a lot of people around. And so, number one, you'll have less people to insure. And number two, driverless cars will be much safer than drivable cars 5 years from now. And so the cost and returns of selling insurance to driverless car entities will be a fraction of what it is today, selling drivable insurance to millions of Americans who are forced by the Republican Democrat regime to buy said insurance. You think the car insurance companies might have lobbied for years to get it mandated in all 50 states that you had to have insurance? Now, don't get me wrong. It's actually a societal benefit in many ways to force people to have insurance because you're out there taking risks to other people's lives and property when you're driving a vehicle. Choosing to be on the public roads. I'm talking to Piper, that's why I'm not looking in the phone camera there, but
they lobbied for sure.
They lobbied for it. Might be one of the very few corporate lobbyist laws that was passed that isn't entirely sucky.
It's interesting. Most of those companies, I think, where are they? New Hampshire, I think, or Connecticut, and I think Connecticut doesn't have a safety belt law.
Not anymore. They do. All of them do.
They do that.
All of them do.
They didn't used to.
All right. Thanks for the malinformation there, Piper.
Anytime.
All right, I got another question over here. This one, an emailed question from a Trading with Cody subscriber. Cody, thanks for taking my question. Do you think the Facebook fallout, say that 5 times fast, Lincoln, Facebook fallout will significantly impact earnings going forward? My concern is that forward guidance will dramatically cut and the stock will be dramatically cut and the stock will get hard and languish lower. It would be a sad thing to continue to hold it over the next 5 years and the stock price not keep up with the market provided the bull market continues. Thanks again. Cheers. There's actually several things I want to point out there. Number one, that is a huge assumption that after 8 years of this beautiful bubble-blowing bull market, not necessarily beautiful, I take that part back, but this bubble-blowing bull market that we have profited tremendously on because we set up for it, is going to continue another 5 years. Number two, sometimes you're going to own great stocks for 2 or 3, maybe 5 years. That's a long time, but that will underperform the market for a few years. If you've owned Apple since March 2003, when it was at $1 per share, as I have, you know that there have been 2 or 3 years at a time when it's underperformed the market. It didn't go straight up from $1 to 170. So That might happen even if earnings aren't dramatically cut. So then let's get to that first part of the question about, yeah, I think it is possible that Facebook has some fallout. Some of this Facebook backlash impacts earnings. At least near term, a month or two. But unless you and I and you, I'm live streaming stuff on YouTube right now. I wondered why I didn't live stream it on Facebook today. Are we going to stop using Facebook? Honestly, Piper, what are the odds that in the next month you just absolutely delete your Facebook account?
Well, I
Zero. He's with me.
Not quite zero.
But, okay, not quite zero, but it's not, like, as mad as, like, we're two of the most aware, angry, rebellious, we are the backlash against Facebook, but you and I are still like, well, my buddy's on there. I'm running a business. I got to promote it.
I would start with non-participation before I deleted it, but that was.
But what's non-participation is really still participation. It's like the Rush song.
On the internet.
Neil Peart, right?
On the internet.
If you refuse to make a choice, he who refuses to decide still has made a choice. Is that the line?
It's close.
Neil Peart. Drummer. Oh, I should have had the drumsticks out, Piper. Got the guitar in the back. Look, we got lightable drumsticks. That would have been good. I didn't know I was going to make a Neil Peart reference here. I don't even know if these work. No batteries. Supposed to light up. Oh, let's see if it's on. No. All right, rock and roll, right? So the answer to that question is, there's risk, man. I mean, I sold some of my Facebook along the way here. I sold some most recently at about $190, I believe, and right before this Fallout thing happened. And I'm not in any rush to buy any more Facebook back. Still have a lot of it. My mother-in-law put $3,000 into a stock account 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, when right before I got married to her daughter, and she put almost all of it into Facebook because at the time I was loading up on Facebook. It was in its 20s, and along the way she sold a little bit of Facebook at like 100 and bought some Weight Watchers at 18. It's now at 65. She bought some Apple on my recommendation, about 140, went to 175. She bought some Netflix on her own choice. I think she made 20% on that. Bought some Twitter at 48, not my selection. She's lost money on that one. But her stock account, I hope she doesn't mind. I know she doesn't mind me telling, because I told her I was going to talk about this to my subscribers. It went from $3,000 to $18,000 in 5.5, 6 years. Mostly because of her Facebook account. But, oh yeah, she owns some Amazon too. I got her in that one at like 500 or something. So now she got tripled her money on that one. So she ended up with $18,000 in her account. She came to me the other day on Sunday night and she said, Cody, my stock account was fun. You know, I threw $3,000 in it, but it's really sort of real money now. Like, I don't want to lose my $18,000. Well, now it was at that moment, had already dropped to $15,700. She's like, I don't want to lose all of it. Should I sell? I said, you should sell half. You are exactly right, mother-in-law. You took $3,000 and turned it into something oh, this one works. Somewhat meaningful. But what's the point of the investing? Sell half. Now she still has like $6,000 worth of Facebook, which is twice as much money as she even put in her stock account. Now she has $7,000 in cash. So what's the point? Like, I've been selling. I've been trimming for a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years. People who were trading with Cody, subscribers, or followed me 7 years ago, I was telling everyone you should be aggressive and load up on anything in the app revolution. I'm not now. I'm not loading up on stuff. I will probably start buying some cryptocurrencies after this crash plays out. But even that, I'm not going to be wildly and aggressive. Let's just, stocks have gone, the Dow has gone from 6,500 to 25,000 in the last 10 years. Unless you sold everything at the bottom, you've probably benefited from that. Well, trim a little. Maybe not half, as was the case in my mother's-in-law's situation, but, sell 10%, sell 20%, sell 30%. Raise cash when you can, not when you have to, as the great Jim Cramer has always said to me. And with that, I'm out of questions. See if anybody can figure out how to chime in. Can you people watching on YouTube, can't you guys ask me questions? Show live chat messages. I've never done the live stream on the Facebook app before. On the YouTube app. My brain's got them all confused. You notice it's all the same. YouTube, Facebook, Google, even Apple. These are $1 trillion, Amazon. These are all $1 trillion companies. Is Amazon tracking as much as they might be? Or is there going to be some cockroaches to come out on the Facebook, again, I can't keep the company straight, on the Amazon data situation? Amazon's got a lot of information on you. I don't think they're selling it to anybody, but or even allowing anybody to get access to it, but there's a lot of information on you. Apple also. But Apple definitely is not in the business of advertising to you and selling and brokering and profiting off of that data per se, specifically. But they're all guilty. Here we go. A couple more questions popped in, darn it. Cody, what is your take of TSM? Is there going to be a trend that companies design their own hardware and have it fabbed in Taiwan by Taiwan Semiconductor, TSM, for example? That's not going to be a trend. Isn't that been a trend? Isn't that, 10 years ago, no, I guess it's been 8 years ago, I wrote a book called 50 Stocks for the App Revolution, and TSM was one of them. And I talked about how, yes, people will outsource fabrication of hardware, and that's not going to change. I don't like investing in overseas companies per se. I don't know about, do you know who the ruling regime, elected or not, in Taiwan is? No, then don't buy a stock in Taiwan. It's hard enough to buy stocks in America where you know who your government is and what they're up to a little bit. So, anyway, it's not like I don't ever buy a company that's overseas. I own Sony. Oh, someone did ask a question on YouTube and I must have missed it. Cody, not sure if you can see it, but a YouTuber's user Bart asked Cody, quote, any thoughts on gold right now? GLD, not gold. Any thoughts on GLD right now? He said gold GLD in the question, but that's two very different things. Gold is a physical asset. And I tell everyone, you should own a couple of gold coins somewhere that you can physically get to. In case there's ever a solar flare, the internet goes down, Russia hacks the electrical grid, who knows what. But there's a chance you could have a few days or a few weeks without electricity and the internet. So you want to have some gold on hand somewhere, and you want to have some cash on hand. GLD is a promise from a bunch of brokers that if you buy the GLD, that they have gold. They promise you it's represented physically somewhere and it's worth the GLD is as good as gold. But no, I do not believe this to be the case. If you remember anything from the 2008 financial crisis, so what the brokers say they're going to do and what they will do in times of crisis is two very different things. Why do you want to own gold? Partly for times of crisis. So, I do think there are times to trade the GLD, and I have done so, both long and short. But so a few weeks ago, back in probably January, December, everyone was in the Bitcoin cryptocurrency mania as Bitcoin was going from 15,000 to 20,000, and gold got crushed. And I wrote at the time that it might be a good time to trade gold. If you were ever going to trade gold and buy the GLD, you would do that at that moment. So in sum, I think gold is a great investment long term with a little bit of your capital. The GLD I do not think is a great long term investment, and but you can trade the GLD sometimes, and I personally would not be trading the GLD at this particular moment. I don't know why I missed that question. Show. It is showing. All right. Anything else? See if the chat room. Nope. All right, guys. That was all the answers. As best as I can make them up. Now is when I should have the guitar out, Piper. I was going to use this for a prop at some point and be like, "Boy, Trump really put the fire out with those tariffs. Fire extinguisher Trump." I don't know. Not that funny. That wasn't even in the camera the whole time either. Someone did just ask another question on there and I missed it. Darn it. I didn't do that. I got nothing. Ask that question again, Bart. He popped up, but I'm YouTube chatting incompetent. Now I don't know how to get rid of what I just pushed. There it goes. All right. I'm not going to bore the people who are hoping to hear something insightful at this moment any longer. I've given you all the insights I've got. At least for now. Come up with some more tonight.
Hopefully not in your sleep.
Hey, I'll take the insights when they come, Piper. Good night, everybody. Thank you. Oh, wait. Anybody in the conference room? Hello? No, they might have been in there. I had them on mute the whole time. All right. Thanks, guys.